Right, stream engaged. Little green square. Active. Music, go. I just want to kick that up just slightly. And then if anybody says it's too loud, just say it's too loud. Hey, what up, dude? Hell yeah, Daystream. Hey, that's what I was gonna say. And yeah, this is, you know what? I did all, the kids are at school. I did all my damn chores. I even wiped the countertops. Ran the laundry, ran the dishwasher, folded some clothes, and I got about 2 hours to kill. So, and no one's paying me to do anything else. So I'm gonna do this. That's what's going on right now. So this will be a non-regular, hopefully, because I'd like to work, but when I'm not working, this will be an option for me. So I'm just gonna, and this will be a boring stream because I'm not so much looking to be like, hey guys, what do you think? This is how it's a peek at how the sausage is the old Max sausage gets squeezed into the casing. It'll be more boring and probably more of a, oh, that's not magical. Yay, people! Honey, is it honey and ham? Honey X ham? Is the X is it pronounced with a sh? Is it ham? I love ham. So this is great. First time chat. It's so lovely. Well, thank you for joining. Ham. And I was just saying this might be a little boring because I'm just gonna draw. I might interact and do stuff, but what I won't say is, hey guys, how should I draw this? This is a little bit of the old autopilot Max, and we don't need to have so much of the gosh, what should we do today, children? So this is just a peek in, and one thing that I'll quickly do is I'll swipe out this frame because we've improved it the other day. Let's go find it. Death Mountain. .jpg. We have decided that the original design for Tektites, which are those little spiders that are on the mountains, they didn't look cool enough. And we can do better. So basically they looked too much like boulders and moved too much like the boulders, and this just gets them a little bit different. They could be more like scrambling killer bugs, like from Starship Troopers, if anybody knows that reference. Old movie by now, and but it lives rent-free in my brain. That was an old sleepover classic when I was a teenager. Had all the hallmarks. Guns. Oh, Starship. I'd be worried it would be like canceled and stricken from the record for all the fascistness. But hopefully, yeah, no, of course it's a classic. But you know, for some, it you know, the irony is lost. However, it was definitely a bit ahead of its time, perhaps. It always needs a revival. More Starship Troopers is what I say. Yeah, they can remake that one, but I don't know if they can do better. That's the problem. Make it a series. Did they ever do that? I never saw them if they did. So this is, we'll do a little compare and contrast. Yeah, I just didn't like what was going on here. For one thing, I used a brush that wasn't commonly used on a lot of the other ones. It's a little softer, and the roundness of the boulders and the roundness of the Tektites here, it was all very same, and the composition was too close. So after a failed attempt, embarrassingly enough, to do better. I came back the next day, a little more sober-minded, and gave it another shot, expecting again to fail because I had conceptual problems with it. This is erroneous in that Link doesn't scramble up the side of cliffs like climbing. It's not an Assassin's Creed game, so this isn't even like what would happen in a Zelda game. That was my issue with it. Is it's like this isn't even really how he would go. But in order to prove myself wrong, I forced myself to make it a cool image nonetheless, or at least attempt to, because that's as good enough practice for me as anything. And now I like it a lot. So we're gonna use this version and strike the old version. So we'll just let's find the original layer 13. You are out. You are the new layer 13. And what I do on this stream today will not impress. This will just be me going in, doing line art, taking what looks like very cool, rough concept-y sketch pieces and more or less resetting it back to 0. And then I'll be lucky if the final version of the same thing looks half as cool as this. But the problem with this stuff right here is it's not really... It's cool rough concept art, but it's not good enough for like keyframe art, which is where I want to take these. And then, so the process will be, right now all these are like keyframe storyboards, but they're not storyboards per se. You know, this image and this image and this image and this image don't follow in a logical sequence one after the other. If anything, this is sort of like a highlight or like a trailer. You know, imagine these moments in a, you know, montage or trailer for a Zelda film. You could see cool moments, you see recognizable characters, you see moments of tension and intrigue and a little bit of sex appeal and you know, climactic enemies and things like that. But yeah, these aren't sequences, storyboard sequences. What I'll do is I'll render out all these as like a fun sheet of hey, welcome. A fun sheet of you know, portfolio style keyframe art, and then we can sort of as a group engage in which scenes, you know, and we'll like pick 3 and say like, Max, I really like what's going on here. Can you do like a 10 frame sequence like that incorporates this scene? You know, kind of a thing, and I'll do that. Or, you know, Max, you know, show us what's good about this Gleeok. You know, let's turn this into a sequence so it is super climactic or something like that. And so then we'll take these densely packed story kernels, which is what they sort of exist as right now, and we can you know, unfold them like an accordion into a series of images that themselves can also add to the portfolio. And if we do as many as 3 of those, that will feel strong and make itself, you know, I think a nice little you know, case for, look at this guy's talent, he should be on the Zelda movie, kind of a thing. And then at that point, if it's feeling strong and we've done our work, we can continue with it, or say, you know what, put a cork in Zelda, let's do Final Fantasy or something like that, which is also a fun favorite old game of mine, or Metal Gear Solid, or maybe not video games, maybe it could be, you know, well, everything's a video game now. What isn't a video game? You know, I don't know. Find some, you know, domain, public domain thing I could riff on, or something steampunky, or you come up with something and challenge me. Things could be fun that way, but we don't need to make Zelda the be-all end-all of our existence. Now here's some issues, is that even as rough frames, a lot of this stuff is kind of nebulous for me. I'm not even sure if I might have to re-rough these out in the way I would normally do it, because it's like these aren't even really good. I mean, once I get up to speed in my head, I'll have a good sense of like, okay, I know what to draw here, kind of a thing. But one of the issues is I haven't drawn, I drew this, it feels like months ago, and that's sort of, it's not in my working memory right now. Steamboat Mickey, yeah. What an interesting concept. Steamboat Mickey, the origin story, Of course, Steamboat, well, it's really Steamboat Willie, and then Steamboat Willie itself was a direct plagiarization of Buster Keaton's Steamboat Bill Jr., which is not exactly the, it's not a one-to-one, like, lift or anything like that. Obviously, Mickey is not Buster Keaton. It's not shot by shot or anything like that. Disney stealing? Shocking? Yes. In fact, all major cartoon characters, as we know them, are literally rip-offs of previously existing comedians or entertainers from that era. So Mickey Mouse is really an amalgamation of Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. More specifically, Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp, where he's basically this, like, Mickey is a mouse, like the smallest thing on the food chain. And Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp was this victim of capitalism, basically. Yeah, exactly. So it's, and you can imagine, like, all the things are basically, all the elements are there. Basically, this thing that everybody's picking on basically gets his chance to, like, have his day. And every dog has its day kind of motif. But yeah, the everybody back in the day, all the cartoon characters back in the day were pretty much stealing the bits of previously already existing like vaudeville actors or whatever. It's basically you were drawing a caricature of a famous celebrity and then turning it into a copyrightable image that you could get away with stealing, basically. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten all this art. It'll help take up less RAM on my system, and we can sort of move more nimbly. Especially here in these dark areas, it's a little hard to see what I was even drawing. Let's see if we can use some blend modes to sort of find a little bit more. Restore, if possible, some of this. Yeah, that's not going to work though, because some areas. Well, if some areas get darker, that works, but then other areas get too dark. We're just going to have to pretend like we know what we're doing. And this will be the unfortunate part, is through the process, we're mostly going to look at these ghostly white, faded versions of these images, which won't be interesting to look at. And then I'm just going to do line art on top of them. So anybody looking at this is just going to, you're going to suffer like me, where I stare at a white screen for half my day, blinding me, causing irreparable damage to my corneas. But we will eventually, at long last, get to something that looks like finished versions of these ones. And if we're lucky, it'll look even better. They may not. These have such spontaneous freshness and energy. And, it's like trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice. It's not it's difficult enough to do the first time. So you know, in attempting to improve them, we will fail, but that's part of the zen of all this stuff, and that's not a thing that's new to me or storyboarding or art. It's the rough sketch of something almost always looks better than the finished thing. That's part of our struggle. Okay, but one thing I will be smart if I do is pull up a nice solid reference image for Link, because he's the first thing that I'm going to draw. So I'm Googling Link right now. What I want is like a clear version of the Twilight Princess costume, because that's basically what I'm using to that's basically the version of Link that I'm drawing. It's not the latest, but it has, for me, the perfect mix of classic and old school Link. This looks cool. Let's see, what's this? It's very decent. Yeah, I like this. So, more or less looks correct. Just at a glance. You know, he's got pants, he's got gloves. The whole Link wearing pants thing, I'm a fan of. And in as much I like the way the rest of these are looking too. So I'll have this basically up for me to glance at and make reference with. I don't want to drift too much. Definitely looks. See, one thing I haven't been drawing necessarily perfectly throughout the whole damn thing is his hat. I've got it kind of going back like this, like a flag. It's very much hanging here, like it's basically halfway off of his head. That always feels like it's about to fall off to me. I've definitely secured it a little more tight to his head, but you know, that may change over time. And it's okay. None of this has to be perfect. It just has to look like it's unified and done by one person more or less at the same time. So here's a challenge. How do we, across many images that will take a long time to finish, how do we make it so that because you know, sometimes the first drawing that you do in a day is going to have a different quality than the last drawing that you do in a day. Maybe you're tired at the end of the day. Maybe you're not warmed up at the beginning of the day. Maybe your drawings are suffering at the beginning and end of the day, and the only good ones are in the middle, kind of a thing. Well, one way that we can more evenly distribute our efforts is by batching, which is a technique I use to make sure that I'm giving pretty much equal amounts of attention to the most important things in each image across time. So what I'll be doing basically is looking at this reference of Link, interpolating it, and you know, basically we'll draw Link, this canon version of Link, onto every Link that we see. This will just be the first thing that we do, is we just draw Link. Link here, and he'll just sort of float in space across all these versions. Link here, tiny, small. Hey, people. Different Link there, Link here. What this will help with is that I'll learn about how this will be good for many ways. It'll make sure all of my links are consistent. I'm not going to draw Link right after drawing a dinosaur and then draw a moblin and then a wizard and then draw Link again, so I've forgotten what Link looks like. No, you just draw every single Link they'll all look unified. And in the process, I'll get really good at drawing Link in that rendered form. So it's sort of this, it's a bit of a pipeline. It's like an assembly line kind of strategy. This is what I do in my day job when I need to make sure my time is, used most efficiently. And it actually helps keep my skill sharp as far as learning the different ways of drawing different things. It's more repetitive, directly one after the other. But each one is different. It'll keep it from getting boring, and I won't get bogged down on one particular part of one particular image, which is very much a real trap that a lot of artists fall into. I'll try to move as quickly as possible. I'll try to not get stuck on things, and if I do get stuck on things, I'll come back and fix it later. It's more important about getting something for all the line art, so I'll go in and I'll draw all the links. So once all those links are drawn, because he's the most prominent figure in each drawing, I'll think about what could come next that is also sort of prominent. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot else that is prominent that is common in all of these different things. So from there on, we pretty much just have to go by one. But there are maybe some things that I could draw. Gosh, it would just be this fairy at this point, drawing her twice. And then it's, each image here, because their keyframes are so bespoke, it's just not there's limits to how that to where the batching efficiency will come in. But batching will come back in later on once the line art is more or less complete. We can use batching again for the rendering process, like adding shading and stuff like that. After Link is done, essentially what we're just going to draw is the most important thing in each image. So here it would be Ganon, here it would be the Master Sword. I'm not going to draw these leaves first, I'm going to draw the Master Sword. I'm not going to draw this guy in the background first, I'm going to draw the uncle. And then this guy. There will be a hierarchy that sort of dictates what needs to come next. So that when at the end of this, when I'm tired and there's still a lot to do, it'll in fact be that what's left to do is simply the easy stuff, like drawing rocks, which are if you draw a rock wrong, no one will probably notice. If you draw a link wrong, people might notice that and call you out on it. So, but again, through this, I don't even want to work too hard. So as long as it's fun, we'll just keep going with it. And so I'll just try to draw for the next, let's see here. It's 12:30 now, and I need to leave at 1:45 to get my kids. So it's like an hour and 15 minutes. I spend about 30 minutes yammering. You found a picture of that AI-generated jack-o'-lantern that I then carved for real a couple of years ago. I won't do any AI rants today. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, it's scary in its own right, but thanks for sharing. That's cool. And so the left one is the AI version, right? You can see it's funny what AI got wrong and right back then. Now it would probably fix this stuff and look amazing, but it's basically got the colors inverted. Yeah, it's interesting. If I don't look away now, I'm gonna get triggered and start ranting. So. Okay, so these first couple drawings might suck, and we're just going to let them suck. I haven't been rendering much lately. It's been a lot of downtime for me. So, if my drawings are not perfect, we'll just have to leave them be. You know what? I should write down what my settings are, or at least take a screenshot. just for this brush, so I don't have confusion on what I used the next time I come back. Okay. Like a little bit of link mullet in the back. Let's see here. You love the 2 pictures we can see on your wall next. Thank you. These are my cats as Elizabethan royalty. Here, that's for the record. Let's bring them in. Any excuse to stop work. Here's my dearly departed Emily. These days, you'd think these were AI generated, but I painted them 10 years ago, 2013, I think, as gifts from our wife. And here is Sir Hugh. You know, it's like the Blackadder version of my cats. There we go. Now these are digital, so I just sketched them on the computer and printed them out. But at the time, I was taking a portraiture class. Oh, I've got some other cool things. Let's see here. I don't know if anybody's fans of Wes Anderson, but this is I gotta hang this up behind me. But this is a fun print I did. It's hard to see. It's in the theme of, if you've seen the movie Rushmore, I did a print for my buddy. Plate swallowing bird who's blind and then had it in months, yes. So this was something for a Rushmore gallery show. There's all this art that I have and don't hang out. Here's a lovely sketch I did when I was still a teenager. That's charcoal on newsprint, baby. Yeah, get it right. It's all backwards. Yeah. Anyway, goes on and on. Oh, lots of cool stuff. The other day it was suggested that I should do a little slideshow somewhere in the corner maybe of my screen where people can look at past artworks that I've done, and I like that idea. It's cool. Might be distraction. You know, we'll see. I'll give it a shot. If people hate it, then they can hate because they're haters. No, it might distract me, but I think it's possibly really good. Might have merit to bring up discussions about other projects I've done and stuff like that. One of the challenges here is that I drew this. This is like the first image in this series that I was trying to get done, and I drew it before I really had much experience. I had only done a few link studies at that time. And, there were copies from the instruction booklet, so they were not this kind of dynamicness. So I'm going to have to, like, sort of think as I go about how things might need to change, because, I didn't draw a link with a sort of this break in his sleeves right here, and his proportions, I've decided I want a little bit more realistic so that it looks more like a live action human, albeit like not a super tall one or incredibly buff one, but let's say a Tom Cruise size. What if Tom Cruise was young again? No, maybe he wouldn't be good, but he's definitely the right stature for something like this. But luckily, Link has all these great folds in his new clothes that make all these great wrinkles that are going to help me make sure. Adding motion context to the pose. The wrinkles do that, but I also need to just sort of correct as I go where I see mistakes. Like I wouldn't necessarily, like the pose is right, but but like I think his butt needs to be more like here as opposed to here. Or maybe I'm wrong, but I don't want him to look too small. Still, he's not a giant of a character, so. And I'm not sure if I didn't spend as much time. Like I did this drawing and this drawing in the same time. Whereas normally these days I'm doing like one drawing a night and stretching it out, because nobody was like really on the streams at those times, so it wasn't something where anybody like I wasn't actively engaging in discussions about stuff, so I didn't go through tons of angst about where exactly these fingers and knuckles are. Kind of drawing this a little bit on the fly. See the thumb there. Always got to make sure we count our digits. Make sure we're not. Oh, look at that! I actually even managed to draw too many fingers on his hand. That's funny. Fully intending not to. The power of being a little bit out of it. Now I wonder if this is a... really use a good Master Sword reference, but I'll keep it simple for now. And just fix things later. I like my Master Sword with these little notches chunked out, and then a cool triangle right here. It sort of makes it feel like there's a Triforce theme going on. I don't like using rulers, so when I have to draw straight lines, I just try to do it all at once in one stroke. Because it looks better, in my opinion. A perfectly straight line, if I drew it in the context of 1,000 other imperfect lines, would draw way too much attention. It would light up like a crit. The rulers, there are times when I can't avoid it, because of, I mean, sometimes there are just time constraints, like I just need a straight line right now kind of a thing. But if I'm... it's actually better demonstrated. So maybe later on in a different image or something like that, I can sort of demonstrate why. Like if everything in something is organic and you take the one thing and then you just use a ruler to just draw one straight line, even if something is supposed to be straight, like you make it officially straight. Yeah, it just basically becomes too attention grabbing. It's like, well, everything else looks organic, but that looks like it's made by a machine, basically, or a precise process that wasn't used in the other sections, and that's why I don't want anything to look out of place. Only flaws and all, it all needs to feel like it came from my mind. Didn't really. Like, there's a lot of, like, I'll figure it out later kind of stuff that's happening here with the hand and the shield. It's not bad. It's just sort of like, well, I kicked that can down the road, and guess who has to deal with it now? I like the idea of there being straps on the back of his shield that he can grasp. Rulers are a crutch. And if nothing else, I feel like they slow me down. You know what they do? They sap the energy of the thing that you're drawing. It becomes arrested. It doesn't have any breath in the thing. It's a little abstract, actually. Very one note, and you can tell it was like, oh, this was drawn with a ruler, or you know, by extension, one of the Photoshop line, line tool or something. Thou art, I art thou, and thou art I. There you go. I art. I art art. I heart art. Near as I can tell, that sword looks more or less straight. And we can, I'm not sure if this pommel or whatever at the end should probably look different. Maybe you can have, some design there. Help reinforce the perspective, but and this is a much more leisurely pace than I would normally work, but I've got passion for this, and no one's got a gun to my head. I can't arbitrarily make this, I don't know. There's no deadline here. Believe me, if someone said, I'll pay you $1,000 if you finish this in the next 15 minutes, I would sure as hell be drawing a lot faster, but we don't need to, maybe if I become famous, that could be like a button we have like over in the corner of the screen. Someone presses it and says, finish it challenge. And it's like, okay, pull out all the stops. I don't even breathe. I like die at the end of it. All these little things, these details, this buckle, it has to reinforce the perspective of the form. So I have to be careful about making sure that I don't have to change my mind about stuff that I've already decided. Yeah, if people are like, it's like donate $100 and like my time limit goes down like by 10 minutes or something like that. And I'm like, fuck, you know. By the end, it's just a scribbling mess, and maybe that's entertaining for people, but I don't need to. Gosh, let's see here. Yeah, here I barely even have his little like skirt part of his tunic drawn. So that's how well I helped myself then. But we have to draw it here, so I'm not sure if it's not a hem. Is it a hem? There's like these different things. You know, I'll just for the benefit of the spectators, I'll pull up as a reference the image I'm looking at. Image. Create new. Browse. Desktop. Screenshot. Go. Okay. So this will help, I think, a little bit of the context. You know, I'm drawing like this area here. Could be funny to do subs to lower the time and bits to add time or something. Here's what I would... I'd love like a... Gotta make a stop in North Hollywood. How long are you gonna be on? I'm gonna be here till 1:45. At that, maybe 1:55 at the very latest. And at that point, I gotta be like in the car going to pick up Robbie, and then I go and get Kiki. So that's me. But then I'll be at our parents' house. So yeah, but I'll see you later, one way or another. Hey man, you get here anytime. But if you think you'll get here before 1:55, I'll wait for you. But 1:55, I gotta be out the door. But if you want to just come here and hang out, okay, there's no worries. If you're in North Hollywood, you want to just come here and scratch the cat, you can. There's Hugh is doing much better, so you can come in, fish around for a drink. There might be something. I'm not allowed to drink all the booze anymore, so there should be something if you did feel like it. And this back half is like where his skirt splits. That all has to look like it would connect, like as if that, you know. And I want this to feel like it's a unified piece of energy, even if it gets broken up. Yeah. Yeah, if you were my poor departed friend Marty, you would come over and then open a bag of Doritos and put a Dorito into every single cup in our cupboard. I think Link needs a pouch back here. He was such a prankster. Marty, my worst enemy and one of my best friends. Poor guy. He died of a heroin overdose, or perhaps a fentanyl overdose. I never really got the full story. But Don't do hard drugs in strange places with people you don't know. Far better to grow your own drugs and then sell them for fun and profit. All right, let's see here. This needs to be more like this. Yeah. And I feel like we can get away with a little bit more link boobage. Some pecs. My late best friend Andrew once stole my apartment key, got into my apartment, turned my chair upside down, turned my flashlight on, and pointed at the ceiling. Then locked up and went back to his house where I was riding my bike too. He drove home and acted surprised like an asshole. That's funny. That is a... It's good to bring back pranks. Bring back pranks. And so here you see I've changed the, the original angle of the leg was like this. And it's not better, but I feel like this is a little bit more realistic for now. But, actually John, or a boxer, let's just say, it would be fun to, have me do a stream and then you buzz in, like, bomb, and you can, like, hang out next to me here for a second. Wouldn't that be fun? I don't know if it can happen today, but what a cool notion. Double the stream. Crossed streams. Oh, you did that to his parents? You're the diabolical one. Oh, you cleaned it. That is so funny. That's like a real genius that old Val Kilmer movie kind of prank. You thought ahead. So one thing I'm fighting right now is in rendering, there's a tendency to, like if there's something that is like bent at an angle, God, so good. Something that's bent at an angle. Well, when you draw it with like finishing lines, it's easy. It ends up being like your mind slowly starts to like want to untwist things, so you end up drawing it like this, whereas initially it was like this, or like an elbow is, like this, and then that's kind of hard to draw, and you end up drawing it kind of like this, and that's what I want to try to avoid. What's happening here that I'm seeing is I'm getting a sense of like I'm drawing, this is just getting too, like I'm starting to draw the boot like this, like the boot is like that, and that's not right. I want to make it feel like this knee is still coming toward, like as if this knee is still coming towards us in space like that, and then when it bends back, it's wrapping in space, going back like that. And it's tricky because you're engaging your part of your brain that has to see things with foreshortening and whatnot. One thing I do when I'm thinking while I'm drawing is I go like this. I touch my tongue to my lips. It's just an unconscious thing. That sort of feels like it centers me. When you can't hold tension in a place where you need control, like I need control here, but there's tension in my psyche about there's anxiety, so I transfer the tension to someplace else. In this case, firmly holding my tongue to the tip of my lip. And it's just an unconscious thing. But what's funny is I've seen my daughter do the same thing. So I'm not sure if she picked it up from me or if it was just a when she draws. So I'm not sure if it's one of those genetic things or whatever. My mom has a version of this too, but it isn't. She doesn't touch her tongue to her lip. My mom goes like this. She purses her lips like she's about to kiss something. And again, it's the same thing, like holding tension. Like, I need looseness here, but there's tension. I'm holding tension. And it just gets transferred. It's like as if it like goes through the only part of your body that isn't connected to muscles, you know, where you have like this, you've got your, I don't know, just goes to her lips. But as a result, my mother, who doesn't smoke, has these fine line wrinkles of a smoker around her lips. So the tongue is the better option. Okay, this is looking okay, but it's definitely... And I'm getting bogged down, like you can tell, like I'm like stuck on this part, and I shouldn't be. It's like, it's not that important, right? So it's better to just simply loosely get in there. Because who cares about the knee, right? That's not the focus of the drawing. Oh, but now the rest of it doesn't look good. It's gonna bug me. Let go. Have some sort of heel on his boot. Okay, that looks decent as far as it goes. I'll throw a bunch of shading on it later. No one will notice all the flaws. We'll be okay. That's the other hack. How to hide your mistakes. We'll have a lot about that too. Like, needs a little something back here. You can have another bracing strap over here, a bigger one. That would make sense, right? Ooh. But I don't like the way I made it a little too important. I have to be wary about my line thicknesses. It can't look more substantial than his sword, and in fact, the sword should probably have something that makes it feel like it's got a little bit more importance. My hands are always way too tense when I write or draw, and it tires out my hand really fast. Maybe next time I'll try squeezing my other hand or something next time. So that's a good idea. So a lot of artists complain about hand pain. And I think a lot of that comes down to drawing posture. And one thing that I do that I notice a lot of other artists don't do is they they'll be like this on their hand, and then their other hand is like on a keyboard or something like that. And what that does is you're sort of like transferring all the energy of your body and your weight of your body into your hand, and then expecting it to be limber and have looseness as well as control. It's like it's too much. I use both hands, like the Wacom tablet that I draw with. You can just see it here. Whatever. It's big. There's the setup. So this is big, so I'll lean on the thing with my right hand and draw loosely here so that I can... Let's see if this works. Yeah, it worked pretty good on the fly like that. So that I have the control all in my left hand, with all the tension sort of getting transferred into stabilizing my body as I draw with my right hand. And then the right hand also controls with like this thing. These are the it basically does the undo functions and zoom in, zoom out functions. Like kind of thing. I'm supporting myself from close to the point you're drawing on as well. Yeah, it's like a one-handed push-up. Not that dramatic, but if nothing else, I don't push down more than necessary with this hand. And I use, if you're drawing, like for instance, like I remember drawing a storyboard long ago, like with pencil, and those you have to push down, like to get a dark mark with a pencil. If you're drawing that or like doing that over a long period of time, I can see how you'd mess up your hand. It's not easy necessarily getting that perfect balance. Okay, so this is going to be tricky because I'm going to try and draw lines through this shield. Let's help ourselves out with another layer. I think I forgot to wrap up what I was saying there, but the if you have tension, consider that like just examine why and maybe think about ways of avoiding that would be my suggestion, because it doesn't help you. Especially if you have to do it for any length of extended period of time. And I'll have to draw for sometimes 12 hours a day and then get up the next day and do it again, kind of a thing. If you are not sort of paying attention to how that can mount up, and of taking precautions to prevent issues. That could be a big thing over time. Relearn handwriting. Yeah. You know, it's not for everybody. It's okay. When you draw, do you draw digitally, or is it on pen and paper and stuff? Holding a pencil or pen with a death grip. Switch to a Sharpie. Switch to like a marker that prevents you from doing that. I remember in high school forcing myself to learn to draw with a dry erase marker on a dry erase board. Now, a fresh dry erase marker on a clean dry erase board is like, it's like, you know, skating on ice. It's extremely slippery. There's no friction, and so you have, you're not really able to lean into your drawing or push it with force. You'll slip right off, basically. So it sort of forces you to recalibrate where you are focusing your efforts. I feel like this, perspective-wise, this feels like something's not matching up. So I'm going to that might work better. And then what's on this back of the shield? We'll figure that out later. As long as it looks like a shield. However, something of a uniform thickness might be smart. Or at least something that feels consistent. That's cool. All right. So, what do we think? Is that a decent link? I don't hate it. I think I probably messed up the perspective on these knuckles maybe a little bit. Took all of like 40 minutes or whatever. See, that's what I mean. This is going to take a long time, but it's okay. This can be something I just occupy myself with during the day. And people can check in if they want to or whatever, but it's not going to be as it's not the after hours version, you know, that the nighttime max. Nighttime max is, well, there's several different versions. There's the I've been working all day and probably had a few drinks and I'm maybe a little manic and not in my right mind, and I feel like taking a risk and doing something stupid, you know, kind of thing. That's a little more fun. This has to be the professional max, you know. It's like this is pipeline max. You know, I could pass this to a 3D artist, and you may have to. That stream is I think gonna be a little bit more fun. People join in. They're at the end of their day. That looks any better. one thing we'll do is we'll do our quality control all at once at the end of all the links being drawn. If we get into fixing mistakes now, it'll just be forever. Still, having drawn the one link, let's hope I can get this one done a little quicker. Here's an interesting decision, is this link here, the reference link, we don't see, yeah. Well, this guy is, he's parting his hair to the left. Here I have him parting it to the right. So what do we do? Make a decision. Sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't, but I want to keep things consistent for the sake of continuity. That said, I'm also alternating with him having a left-handed and right-handed grip on his sword. And that's not great. They did the mirror thing between the GameCube and Wii versions. Is they updated it and he's right-handed now, I think someone said. As a left-handed person, I'm, I enthusiastically count Link as one of our own, but it's also not that big of a deal, I guess. In real life, it does matter. Like if a GameCube, he was left-handed, always is, but then they mirrored the whole game for the Wii version since they wanted the sword arm to match the majority of players, which made sense. That was how it was explained to me, and I can't fault them for that reasoning. That makes sense to me. So. And interestingly, this has come up before, but I've mentioned that while I draw left-handed, I use a sword right-handed. Like, if long ago, my high school had a fencing team and I was on it, and I would fence right-handed. And it just felt right. Kind of a thing. In case anybody's worried, I set an alarm on my watch to make sure that it goes off at the very last minute when I need to go pick up my kids. So I'm not going to be so absorbed in this that I can't break away in time to do what I need to do. If anything would interrupt my road to streaming superstardom, it would be an instant where my can you imagine an incident? Because I was chatting with my wife. I was like, yeah, so my streaming stuff is fun. I'm doing really good. It's like I've almost got my portfolio ready to take it to the next step with rendering out all the Zelda characters. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, like Zelda. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I realized I hadn't even told her what like the theme of the story, or like what the project was that I was working on yet. And she's been a saint about not intruding, or sort of more or less respecting the this being a Max project. But that will only go so far as it does not result in me forgetting to pick up the kids or make sure like the mortgage is paid or something like that. If those things come falter as a result, that will be something where the resistance will begin. So I need to help myself by establishing these strict limits, or safeguards. Install these guardrails so that I don't accidentally screw it all up. Here's the test. Does this line match up there? Basically, so that's pretty good. I'm not too bad with eyeballing my perspectives, if I do say so myself. In these kinds of dynamic poses, like there's perspective in everything, even and it's tricky stuff too, because I'm drawing like the top of his hand, so the bottom finger isn't really going to be very visible. It's hard enough drawing hands holding anything, let alone clutching a sword. And I'm like, okay, does it wrap around the whole thing? Yeah, I think I have to go back a bit, rein some of this in, because I want at least a little bit. Probably looks something like that. Another thing that is slowing me down ever so slightly is these are at 2K resolution, which is twice as big as I normally draw my storyboards. Every bit of info that has to be detailed is gonna slow me down. So in like a competitive commercial sort of timeline, like get this shit done kind of a thing, no one cares how pretty it looks, even if I do, kind of scenario, I don't draw more than I absolutely need to. And that's a shame, because I really can draw like a lot of cool stuff. It all ends up looking more or less abbreviated, or the light version of what I could have done. But here we can indulge fantasies of. This is a little tricky because I'm not a great choreographer of fights. I want to make sure there's this kind of like feel of the energy in the swing. His arm, I want to feel the same energy as the arc of the swing. At the very least. And then here, it's like, gosh, what was I even drawing? It's true, I guess here, again, I'm flattening out accidentally the perspective, because this was, if we look at it, like I had... Well, it's meant to look like the sword is like really dynamically coming at us, like very close to camera. I think it does a good job of that, but I think the perspective is just a little tricky. I need to or if the swing will go through. Yeah, the I have it sort of like hitting and displacing the armor on the or the side of the shield of the Stalfos, I guess. Well, it's interesting. They have, even if I didn't draw it correctly here, I think what I'm indicating is that he's got the bad guy has these spiked shoulder pads. And that's more or less impacting that, where it's sort of getting... I don't think I want it swinging all the way through. I'm really just talking about the foreshortening here. It's being stopped and the wrist could be twisted in the stop. Kind of, yeah. I mean, that I'm like thinking of stuff like that, where it's like, well, a little bit of bend back is right. He's not slicing through a piece of paper, right? There's got to be these, there's these mechanics at play, you know? It's not, he's not slicing through the air, so there's energy is going to get sent back, is like when you strike an anvil, some of it, you know, is in the hammer, not just, yeah, there's resistance, exactly. And then, but some of my concern is, you know, how well I set myself up here for the concerns of this, the action on this, the sleeve happening in perspective, and, you know, the pockets of the sleeve sort of catching wind resistance will like flip up one side where it might fall into shadow, you know, and it won't be as pronounced on the inside corner, but there might still be some because it flares out at the edges, you know, kind of a thing. It gets very this is like the age-old battle between pencilers and inkers in comic books, probably, you know. I feel for both sides, you know. And it's interesting, in this image, I started on the sword, not the, not Link's face or expression or anything like that. And I think I wouldn't normally just, you know, I like to start, where I like to start is in a place where once I establish the perspective of that thing, I can use that to inform the perspective of everything else in the image. So now I'm not saying I did a perfect job either, but this one, it is a lot to do with the focal point. And sometimes it's just where you feel like you can get the strongest start. But we may run into issues now that we're getting into the face, like, you know, I drew the shoulder before I drew the head. Is that a problem? we may find out that it's we may find out that this puts where I intended the neck to be a little tricky. But I don't necessarily think so. Here, let's try as a matter of, you know, is it cool if we correct the hair, the angle of Link's hair a bit to match our reference? It's kind of getting this sort of the hairstyle I used to rock back in the day, the kind of hair in the eyes, Edward Furlong kind of. Illustrate a jump by starting with the feet because that's where the motion began. No, I don't think so. Well, actually, maybe. Sometimes it makes sense for me to sometimes it makes sense for me to start with like whatever is closest to camera. So if a character was dynamically running away from me, excuse me, if a character was dynamically running away from camera, and we saw like the back foot kick up, and you know it was a bunch of heel and foot sole in our face and stuff like that, it would make sense to start with drawing the foot. So it all depends. I mean, you wouldn't even see the person's head at that point. It would all be screened by their body. This is a tricky angle to draw an open mouth. And keep it simple. If I can get away with it. I mean, how much of your upper teeth are you going to see looking down? You know, and like he'd probably have like, you know, something like that going on, but I don't really want to. That actually doesn't look that bad. Get some intensity happening. That's kind of cool. Funny that the art you've pulled up there has no open mouth. Makes some sense for a silent character, but he does yell and shout as well. Yeah. I'm a fan of the silent Link. This has been debated in this stream. In my storyboard for this, the Link will be silent, at least as much as we could get away with. Not that he's incapable of talking, but maybe silent by choice, or where he does talk, it's extremely laconic, or you know, like not making a not dialogue heavy in his interactions. I feel like there's a lot of distortion in his face right here, but let's save and adjust ever so slightly. Feels maybe a little more safe. It's not perfect, but there's been worst drawings that have happened in the history of humanity. What I don't want is that in trying to correct mistakes, I end up, again, flattening, and then, because it's like my brain is like, oh, well, it's hard to draw it that way, so let's make it so he's like right side up, and just, and before you know it, I'm drawing this flat, like this upright version on this head, and that's not right, But I do feel like I might get away with a little bit of this. It feels a little less. And the mouth has a lot of problems, but let's not worry about that. In the end, it'll all be like dark, In fact, I can just leave it like that. That looks decent. Yeah, Link is quiet, but you don't want to make him angry. I think it's fun. It feels like we've more or less pulled off the justification of putting his hair going in this direction. I think it looks cool. Very anime. Silent still allowing for outcries and stuff. Ocarina style. Yeah. I think there's I think if nothing else, there is the storytelling wise, there's a problem with it's a sort of like a sexist trope now, but the concept of a Mary Sue I think applies to Link, and it's a pitfall for a live action thing. It's just too much, like he needs to be flawed somehow, kind of a thing. I have a theory about Game of Thrones that this is why the series and characters are so compelling, is everybody had their own kind of flaws, and like the flaws made the characters, and it's sort of like, I don't want to get into like an ableist kind of a debate or anything like that, but it's like certainly like well, for one thing, in the context of the show, it's like women themselves, being women, were at a huge disadvantage in terms of power, and things like that. Other people were disadvantaged in that they're too young. Other people are disadvantaged in that they are, under the condition of dwarfism as a genetic mutation. Other people are disadvantaged in that they have one of their hands chopped off. Other people are disadvantaged in that they have, they don't have the ability to move their bodies. They're paralyzed. Other people are disadvantaged in that they have no ability to speak, or they can only say one word, for instance. Or other people are disadvantaged in that they're crazy, and about the only disadvantage we can extend to Link and have it be have it make sense as far as like relating to the video games is to have him more or less mute. So that's my case for it. Strength of Link being a character who rises to the occasion and shows true courage versus Link being another in a long line of Links and basically to be a destined hero. Listen, if you are perfect when you're starting out and you're perfect in the middle and you're perfect at the end, that's not a story. And having And it's okay. Link can actually be like a medium through which we experience the thing, kind of a thing. But just like Superman isn't very interesting in and of his... Like Batman is far more interesting than Superman because of his weaknesses, for instance, and his compulsions and his you know, his self-restricting limits and stuff like that. It's you know, the various rules he set, you know, I don't know, never using guns and stuff like that, even though, you know, blah blah blah. This is all like comic book talk, basically. Nothing I'm trying to do right now, but yeah, story-wise, I think it would be more interesting if Link has something that feels like a physical, because I don't know if like a like otherwise he just has to like get over he'll have to overcome his fears of, you know, or whatever. But it's like that would happen in the first second. It's like it isn't. I can't imagine they would go with a storyline where Link is like, "You're the hero, you have to do this." He's like, "But I can't," kind of a thing. It's like you could try and do that, but that's not typically how it goes in video games. And making that the adaptation is fine. That's kind of what they did in the Mario film. Mario, get over your fear of eating mushrooms and eat the mushroom, and then he does it, you know, kind of thing. It's like, okay. Here, where I'm very unsure as to like the perspective and intent of, it's like, is this shield pointing away from us? Is the shield parallel to camera? You know, kind of thing. It's tricky. I want to make it look like he's sort of blocking this attack with one shield and striking with his, you know, he's so badass he can fight two guys at the same time, and, you know, doesn't mean it's easy, but, you know, you can try, kind of a thing. But here I kind of have him. What I don't... It wouldn't be very good if it felt like this hand was coming at us in space, like with this kind of thing. That's not that bad, but it's not what I would prefer. So I'm gonna make a decision like it's a little bit like this. Ooh, can't be that high up though. Let's see here. Since he's blocking an upward swing, should the shield be lower? I was wondering if his the choreography on this doesn't have to be super accurate. Facing more to ground. Yeah, I'm not... Like, I know what you're asking, that kind of stuff. Like, that's what I'm twisting over in my head. And what I know what I don't want, which is, I don't want both of these arms... Like, this arm perspective is like this, and this arm perspective, if this arm perspective is also like this, that's not what I want. Because then they're doing the same thing. So I'm trying to have it so that this arm perspective is more like this. Knowing that, how do I make the rest work, kind of a thing. And if I have to change the way that this skeleton is swinging at him, you know, maybe I'll do that. But at the same time, I also don't feel like I need to get super, like when we're talking about not getting bogged down on stuff. What I can also do is, although I rail against this, typically is, maybe we just make it a little bit more flat. See, that's what I drew here, is that these straps are sort of flat against the shield. So now the perspective is very much like this, which is basically, you know, one way or another. It's like I'm not really making a decision with it, but it's okay. At least I'm doing it for a reason and not just automatically because that's how I saw the shield, the reference that I was looking at, and then I just copied it without thinking about how it should be in space. It's like the Moon Knight image. Yeah, you know, what if I went through the trouble of picking on that artist and then made the same mistake in mine? At least if I'm going to do something like that, I'm going to make sure I didn't default to it just because it was, you know, I just wasn't thinking or something. One thing I don't love is that these straps are so high. I feel like that wouldn't be the case. And if that's the case, let's just shift the whole shield outline up. That feels acceptable to me. I can get away with this, or maybe I'll shrink it down. Because the shield is at this point far away from camera. We can justify it being a little bit smaller. And what I'll probably end up doing is also making this skeleton a little bit smaller. Because if this sword is getting this big when it's close to camera, that just means, you know, we've got like a wide angle lens. There's a lot of distortion at play here. And it has to be consistent. You can't just have like one part of the camera having one type of distortion and then the other parts are doing their own thing. Like here, this has to be thicker than here. At least a little bit. So that's enough for that, but you know, there's small stuff. Just so I can sleep at night. Right. Okay, and actually, because it's fairly relevant to this sketch, this is almost exactly the Moon Knight sketch that we were looking at. This will be bad because pulling up an image. Do you still have that Moon Knight? I mean, I know I do somewhere here. What I'm trying to do is avoid showing, pictures of my kids, for instance. You know, it's not like it's a big deal, but there's stuff that's intended for the audience and stuff that isn't, and I don't necessarily want things to be on the screen that will compromise me, like my bank account information. Jesus Christ. I'm going to edit that out. Find out how much debt I'm in. Jesus Christ. Okay. Let's see here. And of course, after all that, I still can't find the fucking thing. Maybe it's in here. Because it's basically the same kind of pose as the Moon Knight thing. No, I can't fucking find it. Damn it, I had that. Oh well. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The concept being that the oh no, it's all good. The in that Moon Knight sketch, remember his hand, you know, was going off in that direction. His other hand was going like this, and I kicked his foot out, didn't I? Kind of like this. And the other knee looked good. It was bunched up like that. It was like literally the same pose, right? It's like the Superman punch, if you ever watch any MMA stuff. You're just getting like all this extension, and then, you know, the tension and the extension are all doing the things they need to do. Knee. Other knee going into the distance. Ankle folds. And I'm not great at drawing feet, but something that feels like a faraway foot is all we need. There we go. All right. Fairly decent link. You can see here, I need a little bit of the back of the cap there. Maybe some spit flying out of his mouth as he gives his battle cry. Yeah. And so, in this gap, there's supposed to be shattering bone cartilage. I should have just had you do it, because I compromised myself with a bunch of bank statements as I was, not terribly, but just the pitfalls of having a cluttered desktop and looking for the image where I thought it was, because I did save it, I believe, but then, you know, couldn't find it, and then or whatever. But if you do find it, you can compare it to this image, the one I had drawn. They're very similar. It's a you know, we have the arm in the foreground clearly coming towards us on the same side of the body. So let's see, Link's left arm coming towards camera, Link's left leg going away from camera, and then the other appendages doing the opposite, basically. So it's got the tension, and it's got all the distortion, and all this stuff is there. You know, go ahead and, if you have it at your hand, pull it up, and we'll sort of end the stream with it. At this point, I'm scared to look for it on my machine, and I'll just end up not being able to finish another Link, even if I get it started. This other one that is left on the deck is going to be challenging, because it's Link in a sort of unorthodox pose on the back of a horseback with Zelda, I think it should be Zelda. You know, it's not necessarily clear, but like there's two people on this horse. And then in the back here is a comically huge Octorok that maybe I should not make it so big. I'd keep the relative size of it in the frame, but these people that are running for cover over here in the distance, I could make them bigger and make it look like... I can make it look like he's the size of a house instead of the size of a small mountain. I think would be a little appropriate, but I was just having fun with it on the stream. There we go. Well, after nearly 2 hours, I get 2 little links drawn. So this will be quite the arduous journey going through this stuff, but it'll be fun. And you can see that what gets added will be sort of justify in terms of like adding the fidelity to the finish. Let's see if we can do anything to like make it. You know, it'll at least look more like a attempt at a finished storyboard as opposed to roughed in concept art. I'm happy with how these look. Oh, you found it. Good for you. Okay, we'll end with this because I gotta go in less than 5. Okay, yeah. This will be the thing. So I took a screenshot and it will pop up theoretically here. Very similar poses. Here, let's cancel that out. Bring this up. Not real. So we'll save all the major things that I corrected. But if we just extend out this leg, you can see the similarities very easily. It's very, very similar. You know. So it's fun. It's fun to see that a lot of art is just using these. There's a, you know, the human body can move in a billion ways, but that it's still, you know, where we can have a clear read on the human body. That's not an infinite amount of things. You know, this is, you know, if you need a dynamic pose of something, you know, character coming at and doing an attack, it's like, it's probably a variation on this pose. It's like not something I invented. And this is by far not but to a large extent, I've drawn this pose many times before. So it was well in my database of like poses at the ready in the back of my mind that subconsciously I knew I could just go to. I could just say, hey, I know how to solve this problem. Here, classic lunge, you know, a lunging leap with fists coming this way and other fists going that way and legs doing the opposite. There it is. Okay, well, this is a fine time to save. Yeah, there it is. It's saving. I can see it backing up there in the old Google driving. Thanks for everybody if they're still on, but even if you're not, I think it's great. Adamatron, thanks for pulling up that image at the lasto secondo. And I'm going to have to call it an end right now because I got to get in the car and head out. So thanks, everyone. And if I'm not booked tomorrow, I'll do it again. All right. Adios.